Welcome to the EarthWorks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon from many of our turf friends from the past 30 years.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joel Simmons, and this is the EarthWorks podcast. And every week we come to you and talk with interesting people, typically in the golf industry. And today is no exception. I am very excited to be able to introduce you, Mr. Keith Wood, who is the director of greens and grounds at Quail Hollow Club outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And you've been there for what, like 5 years now? How long have you been?
Yeah, it's been 5 years. Going on, getting ready to go on the sixth season here. So,
in all disclosure, Keith was actually a student of mine back, and you remember these days, back in, I want to say you were winter of '98 with me. Is that right?
Yeah, I was there. I graduated from University of South Carolina in '96, went straight to Rutgers right after that. So '97, '98 were the 2 winters I was up there with you at Rutgers.
Let's go back a little bit. I didn't know this until I started doing some homework on you, but I didn't know you have a biology degree. Is that what you got?
I do indeed, yes.
Why? If you don't mind me asking.
I don't know. I don't know how I ended up there really, but I did. I kind of enjoyed some science classes, and I got into some of those science classes you have to take as a freshman, and just enjoyed them and just rode with it. And then by the time I figured I wanted to be in golf, it was a little too late.
Oh, so you were still at the university when you decided golf was going to be the direction.
Absolutely. It was in between my, I think it was in between either my sophomore and junior year or my junior and senior year. I took a part-time summer job working on a golf course.
There you go. So you got hooked.
I got hooked.
What course was it?
It was Wildwood Country Club there in Columbia.
Okay.
I worked for Kevin Redfern.
Did you really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And we had bent grass greens at that time at Wildwood, and Kevin showed me how to hand water greens and kind of what it took to keep bent grass alive in Columbia. And man, I fell in love with it. It was man against the element.
Oh, that's interesting. So Kevin was the one Kevin, who was a dear friend of ours. Kevin has gotten you hooked on golf. Did he convince you to go to Rutgers?
He did not. He said, you're probably going to need to get a turf degree somewhere.
Yeah.
Somehow. And I just started doing my research, and it came down to either Penn State or Rutgers. And I don't know why I chose Rutgers, but I did. I think the application process was a little bit more involved and made me feel like you had to write an essay, and I had to do some other things that to get into Rutgers that you didn't have to do at the time to get into Penn State.
Yeah.
And so I felt like that separated, and maybe it's going to be a little bit better curriculum, it fit me just fine.
Yeah, certainly back in those days, it was a great program. You had a wonderful class, by the way. I remember I did some homework again, and I pulled up, I have all your grades. So I keep all the grades of everybody that went through school with me anyway. And, guys like Julio Diaz, who's now at Punta Cana, who you may remember. Jeff Whitmire, who I talk to often, is at Williamsburg Club and one of the best golfers I know. And I don't know if you remember the Miller brothers, Dean and Darren. Dean ran PGA West for a while. And I tell this story often. I went out to join him to do a little soils class, and he had brought in 8 guys from either your class or a neighboring class, but probably guys that you would have known. And I remember we were sitting around one time, and they were all bragging about how well they did at school. And I said, be careful, guys. I have all your grades. Oh, no, you don't. And I started pulling them up. And then we started realizing who was bragging and who wasn't. But I did look up your grade, and you were absolutely the top of my class. So I'm assuming you were probably pretty much on the top of your class. I actually ran into a guy named Bob Higgins, who you may remember at Indiana the other day. I just happened to be out in Indiana doing some traveling and hadn't seen Bob probably since school. And he the first name he brought up was yours, which was kind of cool. But it was a good class.
Bob and I had a lot of fun in classes there. And I do talk to Dean from time to time. I try to run into him and Julio at the GIS conferences every year.
Yeah, I see Julio. That's the only time I get to see him. I'm hoping to get Julio on this podcast one of these days. So if you're listening, Julio, give me a holler. I want to catch up with you on this. But so where were you in Rutgers? Where were you working at the time you went to school?
I got a leave of absence at Wildwood. So
you were still working for Kevin.
Yeah. they gave me a leave and let me go up to Rutgers and get my turf degree. And upon coming back, I was going to be an assistant superintendent. So that's kind of how I got started and how I got my foot in the door with the management, and how I really kind of moved up in this business.
Was school in general a good experience? I mean, would you recommend these programs? I mean, they're kind of dying, unfortunately, now. There's not as many kids going through, but would you recommend these? I mean, what was your experience?
Yeah, no, my experience was excellent.
Yeah.
But I will say, I felt like I was a little bit, I had an advantage because just coming off a 4-year degree in biology, I knew how to study. I knew how to listen to what you guys were saying.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other guys in the class really didn't, because, you know, they were working, and they were working their way into a management position. So it was good for me to see that and help them learn how to study again. But, you know,
that's a tough move.
Yeah, and I do recommend the program. I think I've got one of my assistants now as a graduate from the Rutgers program, and I think I've encouraged like 4 or 5 other guys since I've been able to get people to go in order to go to Rutgers.
Oh, that's good. So and it's so hard right now to get people in this business and to encourage a young guy that wants to make a career out of this. I mean, there's no better way to go. But you're right. I mean, it was interesting in the years that I was there. So many guys just were working guys. I mean, they weren't students per se. And there was a handful of guys that did come through those years, like yourself, that you could see had class, room experience. They'd gone to another university setting and they knew what they were doing, but it's not easy. I mean, some of these guys are 25, 30 years old, hadn't been in school since they got out of high school. And all of a sudden now they got to go cram for a test every night,
Yeah, it's quite difficult. However, the one thing is that everybody that was there wanted to be there.
Yeah.
So that really makes a difference when you're trying to learn, and whenever you're sharing thoughts and ideas in a classroom setting, is you can have good free conversation, and everybody was learning from everybody because they wanted to learn.
Right. And everybody was in the business already, right? There wasn't anybody that wasn't already working somewhere, right?
Correct. And that was the other thing about Rutgers that I really liked, is that you had to have some level of experience to get accepted into the.
And you had a bunch of weirdos like me that were out in the field, seeing what was going on every single day, and teaching you stuff from real, firsthand information. So how long were you with Kevin?
Oh, let's see. I've been with Kevin for a number of years. So Kevin left Wildwood while I was at Rutgers and went up to Grandover Resort in Greensboro. And so I spent 2 years at Wildwood as the assistant superintendent without Kevin. And then he had an opening at Grandover, and I followed him up to Greensboro and worked with him at Grandover for another 5 years. So I'd say all in all, I worked with Kevin Rever for about 10 years.
Oh, that's quite the experience.
Yeah.
And would you recommend that?
I hear he's calmed down a lot. So yes, but I talked to his current superintendent, Matthew, all the time, and Matthew Killian, and it's funny, Matt and I worked at Grandover together as well. So Matt's been with Kevin even longer than I have, but it's no, he's a good guy. He's good to learn from.
Oh, I bet.
You know what I tell my assistants is, like, you're going to learn a lot from me, but you're also going to learn a lot of what not to do from me.
Well, that's true with everybody. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's the lesson that everybody needs to take. I mean, you got to learn what to do and what not to do, and you also have to make it your own and make it work for whatever you're doing and wherever you are. Those are hard lessons. But
one of the hard lessons really about being a superintendent is being strong enough to carry the load, to shoulder the mistakes.
Yeah,
and also to be free enough to let people make mistakes that are not going to, make you fall over, squash.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, you're still growing grass. Was it Kevin who taught you how to water?
It was Kevin and his assistant, Jay Gettings.
Okay.
So they taught me how to hand water greens, and the rest of the golf course down there was in sugar sand. So, I mean, we could have a head stick on all night long and you never would know.
Yeah.
But hand watering greens is where I really got addicted to the business.
Oh, is that true? That's funny, because usually some guys hate that. I talked to a friend of mine who worked at a pretty popular club, and he goes, all I ever did was pull hose. I'm the best damn hose puller you've ever seen, but he didn't learn anything else. He pulled hose all his life, but he learned how to water. And that was one of the things when we were at school, you can't teach a kid how to water unless you're, standing there with a hose in your hand. It's not something you can ever learn in a classroom.
No, there's an art to hand watering.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to do it. And I remember today the conversation that Kevin had really got my wheels spinning. So it was after a long day. We've been in like 100 degrees, and he comes up to me around 5 o'clock, and I'm putting the greens to bed, soaking all the wilt spots that happened that day. And he said, "How did the greens hold up today?" I was like, "Man, it was tough. I've been fighting a battle since about noon." He said, "Yeah, I kind of leaned them out a little bit too much. I think they're ready for some food." And I said, "What?" And right then it hit me. Boom.
It's connected.
So much that goes on into getting the surface ready to play on. It's not just being a hose.
Yeah.
It's not what they watered the night before. And I had no idea, even thinking about fertility management and fungicide management and all these things. And here he was picking my brain, asking me how well the greens held up to give him an in on what he needed to do the next day, how he needed to set the greens up.
And he taught you that.
It fascinated me.
Yeah. Well, that's a great lesson to learn, though. I mean, think about it, because it is all interconnected. So where'd you go from Wildwood or from Grandover?
I went to Florence Country Club, Florence, South Carolina. Another very, very hot spot. So Florence is on that same line as Columbia that leads to Augusta. So there's a sand belt that runs right through center of South Carolina that kind of connects North Carolina from Fayetteville to Florence to Columbia and over to Augusta. I mean, it's just a really hot, sandy place.
Yeah.
And we had bent grass here in Florence, which was quite a challenge, but another very good opportunity for me to work alongside somebody with Dr. Bruce Martin right there at PD Research Center in Florence.
Yeah, you don't get.
And I had bent grass. He was a bent grass lover, and it was pretty easy. If I had something that looks like it was crapping out, I could call Dr. Martin and say, "Hey, can you come over and look?" And he'd always run out and come out and take a look. And I learned a lot just from our conversations about how to manage grass and how to manage things.
So he was teaching a disease or beyond disease? I mean, he's a pathologist by education, right? Or by trade?
He is a pathologist by education. He was teaching me disease. However, there again, when you ask somebody very smart some good questions and they give you a couple of good answers, it gets the wheels turning. So I remember one day I was talking to him, like, if I were you, I'd probably just put some 20-20-20 on it, and just keep it very simple.
Yeah.
Don't go crazy. Just spoon feed the 20-20-20 until your nerves suspect health. And that little comment taught me a lot about keeping it simple. I didn't need to go load up all these extravagant things. I just needed some simple water soluble fertility to bounce the plant out of this little bit of stress I put in.
And this is the early 2000s. You were there, in 2002? Is that when you got there?
Yes, I believe so.
And that was back in the day when guys were putting together witches brews that always baffled me. I mean, there would be 30 things in a tank, which isn't simple, not simple at all, and then it kind of went away, and then it's kind of, there's some vogue coming back a little bit, but there was a stretch there in that time frame when there was like these witches brews being put together that were, chemically, incompatible and I thought fairly dangerous at the time, but keeping it simple is a great lesson. Still is.
Fungicides in one tank, fertility in another tank.
Yeah. And
no reason to mix them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just opens up the door for a lot of scary things, So when did you leave Florence and head up to Sedgefield?
2007.
And we started.
So one of the things in Florence, so we hosted the first stage of Q School. And that was a lot of fun. And I got to meet some of the PGA Tour officials. And,
okay.
And that's kind of where my tournament golf kind of picked up. Kind of fortunate, Dillard Pruitt, who's PGA Tour's official, he's since retired, but he came down to Florence to run the first stage of Q School. And then Sedgefield had a job opening come up, and they were getting ready to host the Wyndham Championship.
Mm-hmm.
again, bent grass in Florence. Now they were going to host a bent grass at Sedgefield in August. So they were looking.
The Wyndham is a PGA event?
Yeah.
I don't know if I realized that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you there, but go on.
And so luckily I was able to make an impression on Dillard, and he passed my name along to the folks at Sedgefield as they were, getting ready to host their event. Yeah. And I got a call and went up there to Sedgefield to manage the property and get their bent grass in good shape for the Wyndham Championship, which we did successfully a couple times, and we did not so good a couple times.
That was more weather related, though. I remember a couple of those tournaments when you got into things weren't as great as you would wanted them to be, but a lot of that was weather related, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a booger. It's not much you can do bent grass in the Southeast when you go through stretches of months and weeks of 100 degrees and 75 degrees. It kind of runs out of steam, especially if you make a mistake. And looking back on it, some of the aerification practices may not have been the smartest thing, because instead of carb building, I was depleting the carb storage to heal for aerification. It's funny. Sometimes the more you do to grasses, the less benefits you get.
Yeah.
Back to Dr. Martin, just keep it simple.
I was going to say, you didn't follow Dr. Martin's rules there, did you?
Well, we never talked about aerifying. So
right. Oh, he didn't bring it up. So you beat it up a little bit too much. That tournament was always in the summer. When was that tournament? Or when is that tournament?
Second week in August.
Yeah, it's always in the worst time of the year for a tournament like that in that particular part of the country. So, I mean, you're kind of set up for failure going into it just based on the time of year.
Exactly. So, very fortunate though, that's when the ultra dwarf grasses started coming out. So, we made the flip and went to champion and had some really good tournaments after that.
So it was the bent grass that was the problem.
The bent grass was the problem.
So what talks about that? That was your first change. I mean, that was fairly new at that time when you guys started making that transition. They were that whole transition going into some of these ultras. And you did champion. Is that what you just said?
Yes, we did champion.
So champion was the vogue at the time, and everybody seemed to be jumping on that bandwagon, and you guys were one of the leaders in that. How did it go? And how did you do it? How did you do the renovation?
We did a no-till.
Okay.
Fumigated with methyl bromide. And we sprigged them.
Time of year.
Sprigs went down first week in June.
And you had the tournament in August.
Yes.
Wow. Any fear? You must have been petrified. I would have been petrified.
Well, what could I do? There's nothing I could do.
I know, exactly.
We decided to do it. I mean, hell, it wasn't as bad as managing bent grass in the middle of August for a tournament. So now we were the first to do that as well. To make that change in 90 days. And looking back on it, it wasn't all that bad. My biggest problem with that renovation was I wasn't happy with the collars. We got some bad grass and we struggled with the collars a little bit, but the greens were great.
Collars were sodded though, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So the sod just wasn't what you were expecting. What was that grass?
That was the grass on the collars was Tiff Sport.
Okay.
And it came in at like an inch tall.
Ooh.
And put it in, and then I scalped it down, and I guess they'd probably been mowing it at an inch out on the farm, and it created this false crown. And when I scalped it down, boy, it did not like it. Even though it was rooted, it did not like it.
Yeah. How long did that take to recover?
It took a little bit. It was a little thin during the tournament. But
when did that all go down? Did that all go down after the sprigging?
Yes, it did.
So you're a month out?
Yeah. The greens were damn near grown in when we put the collars down. So.
Oh, okay. So it was that far down the road?
Yeah.
So what did you learn from that experience in terms of working with sod growers? And you must be staying ahead of them if you're buying sod these days.
Yes, absolutely. It's worth the extra few cents to get them to go ahead and mow it down to whatever height you want.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of sod work here at Quail, and our sod supplier, he'll mow it down to 1/4 of an inch if I want him to.
Oh,
And it costs
really?
him, yeah, he'll mow it down to 1/4 of an inch, so that way it's already down low. And once I put the sod down, I can stay off of it for a few weeks, let it knit in and grow, and then I can get back on it and mow it and not scalp it down too badly.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's important because it could, look what happened in that case. So that was, you were pretty, the collars were pretty boogered up by the time you got to the tournament.
Yeah, they weren't
First
even.
year. Yeah. What was the weather like that year? Do you remember?
Same old, same old. It was mid-90s for days, thunderstorms,
Yeah.
75 degrees at night, just sticky, muggy
Yeah.
mess.
I remember going down to that tournament a number of times and just always remember the weather that you had to deal with was always horrible. I just have this horrible image of bad weather, hot temperatures, lots of rain, sloppy conditions. And everybody just like, oh my God, just feels so bad for you having to battle through this, tournament schedule and doing it in the 1st of August.
Yeah, I had 7. I was part of 7 tournaments there, and I don't think there was not a single one we didn't have a weather delay.
Wow, really?
And yeah, and I think there was only 2 where we actually finished all the rounds on the day that they started.
I remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we also had a Monday finish.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. What did you do special for the growing? Did you do anything? Did you add amendments? Did you
oh yeah,
you put a
did a
lot
lot
of
of
goodies in there?
yeah, we did a lot of stuff. We did Renovate Plus, 545, Supple Mag.
And just tilled all this stuff in. You just tilled it all in into the
Absolutely. We
surface,
tilled it
couple
all in.
inches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, we didn't necessarily till it as much as we did is just kind of raked it in with leaf stuff of that nature. Because with the no-till, we weren't trying to really
Change
mess it
the
up.
profile. Yeah.
Yeah, but we did get it down into the holes because you aerify and verticut the old bent grass surface so much. You try to get all those amendments down in the holes with a bunch of a good top dressing before you put the sprigs down. So
so you never did any kind of surface tillage at all. You just did aerification, backward aerification, 2 or 3 different patterns. Yeah.
Yeah, no-till is just you kill the grass, you spray it with Roundup, you fumigate it, and then you beat
Aerify
the
Yeah.
crap out. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, so you're just basically dragging everything in and then top dressing and sprigging the daylights out of it. And how was the weather for the growing for that? Was that horrible?
There was a few thunderstorms. So
Yeah. I think I remember.
you ever put out sprigs, that's going to happen. If you can get through the first 10 days with sprigs on the ground, you've got it licked.
Yeah.
But for those first 10 days, it's pretty nerve-wracking because there's a couple of days that you're going to be raking the sprigs up off the fairway and spreading them back out on the green.
Is that tournament still going on at Sedgewood?
Sedgefield, it is indeed.
Sedgefield,
yes.
sorry. Yeah,
It is it's the last tournament on the FedEx Cup. So that is usually the tournament where all the players are jockeying for position.
So it isn't important. It always has been fairly important. And it's still in August. It's still the first week in August, second week in August.
Yes, it still has the August date.
Wow. That's got to be fun. And you did that every year that you were there?
Yes. Every year.
Any other tournaments where you were there? Or is that the only one that they were doing?
No, that's the only professional tournament. We did the AJGA FootJoy Invitational, which was one of their majors. That was a lot of fun. I've got a plaque on my wall here with Spieth's signature, Thomas's signature, Grillo's signature. So it was a lot of fun watching these guys that are really kicking ass on the tour right now.
Yeah.
When they were their kids,
Right.
And then we used to always host one of the ACC championships as well. The ACC was actually founded at Sedgefield Country Club. So there was a little tie there with the ACC, and they would bring their women's golf championship there in the spring.
So you were pretty busy even then. What was membership like at Sedgefield? What was it to work with?
It was good. I had really good greens chairman, 2 of them when I was there. One of them was actually, I'm a Sigma Chi from University of South Carolina, and he was a Sigma Chi at NC State. So when we figured out we were fraternity brothers, struck up an even different chord and enjoyed a few drinks together after we left left the course every now and then. So no, I really appreciated the membership. They taught me a lot, as did the members at Florence.
I didn't know
And
you
without
were. I didn't know you were a Sigma Chi. I was a. My father and grandfather were both Sigma Chi, and I went to
Oh,
Penn
wow.
State. And my father, who I had little relationship with and wasn't paying my way through school, offered to pay my way through school if I went into the fraternity. And I actually, I pledged and rushed, and they immediately found out my background and offered me spot, and
Yeah.
comforted me that like I won't have to go through the worst of it because I would have been third generation, but it just wasn't right for me at the time. So I just, I didn't do it, but I stayed close with some of the guys that were there, and it was always a lot of fun. So I did not know that either. See, we have almost something in common there.
There
So
you go.
you went from there to Quail Hollow. Was that a hard decision?
No, not at all.
I wouldn't think so.
Not at all.
I wouldn't think so. No, and no disregard to Sedgefield at all, but yeah.
Yeah, and same here. When I say I'm about to say, I think I was kind of at my limit there at Sedgefield. I'd done what I was going to do and what they wanted me to do, and the ceiling was where it was at, and I was at the ceiling with them. And I was getting the kind of the messages of, hey, we're happy where we are right now. We don't need to keep elevating, so just mellow out. And that really wasn't in my nature, especially at that time.
Yeah.
So it was good to be able to get a call from the folks here at Quail Hollow that they had just put in Bermuda grass. So
yeah,
they were looking for somebody that had some good Bermuda grass experience, and they were getting ready for a very big tournament in August. So again, they wanted somebody that knew how to manage Bermuda grass in August. So it's kind of funny how all these relationships and the things that you do land you at your next spot. So and I interviewed very well one day. So
it's funny you say that, because I talk to guys all over the country all the time, and some guys get all kind of angry that it's who you know and not who you are necessarily, but it's not. It's both. I mean, you gotta network, you gotta get to know people, and you gotta do your job right and be good at it. But if you do that and people, things fall into place pretty well. And look at your career. You're a perfect example of that. I mean, back at Florence, you met some PGA guys, and that kind of helped you through, all of these steps, I'm assuming, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the PGA Tour guys knew me. They knew, obviously, Quail has a lot of tournament golf. I mean, it's in the culture here at the club. Tournament golf is a big, big part of what we do. Now, while we take care of the members, and that's our first priority, we're always doing what we need to do to make sure that when the spotlight comes on, that we're shining in the best possible way.
So how does that differ from Sedgefield in terms of the membership and tournaments? I mean, is it a different mentality at Quail in terms of the membership and their understanding that you've got to do a lot of different things that may not be necessarily in their best favor?
No, I would say they're both about the same. Members of golf clubs, and I say this very respectively, but they're first and foremost, and they need to be taken care of, and they need to be shown the utmost amount of respect when you're managing the facility. It's their facility. And whenever you have to do things that limit their access or their ability to use the property or play on it however they want to do it, you have to tread very lightly with those decisions and make sure that you're making the right decision. Because a lot of times, I think superintendents, we tend to take ownership of things a little too quickly. It's it's not my golf course.
No, you don't own it.
They're paying me to manage.
You're a worker bee. Yeah,
that's it. However, if they want to use it, however they want to use it, it's my job to figure out how to make them happy and also be able to do what we need to do to be successful for these tournaments.
Yeah, that's a great lesson to share as well, because I think a lot of guys get so passionate about what they do, and for good reason. I mean, the job is demanding, and people take this great ownership of these properties, but at the end of the day, it's still not theirs. It's the members or the club. So understanding that, that little balance between those two, I think is really important, which obviously you've done well.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to get. And I struggle with it every day. But
I don't know a superintendent that doesn't.
Right.
What was the tournament that was happening in August at Quail when you got there?
Well, they were preparing for the PGA Championship.
Oh, they were getting ready for it. Okay.
Yeah, so they knew it was looming. My first day on the job at Quail Hollow was actually advance week for the Wells Fargo Championship in 2015.
Oh, you got there that close to the championship?
Yeah, so I was
Wow.
here. I got here in May of 2015. So we had the Wells Fargo Championship, and then we had a regular summer. We did a few projects. They're always doing projects here.
Yeah.
And then we had the 2016 Wells Fargo Championship. And then we entered into the big project where we basically tore apart the whole front nine and put it back together, and then went to the PGA Championship.
Yeah. And that was all in design and in plan prior to you ever getting there, the whole PGA Championship? Oh, that came in.
Well, the hosting of the PGA Championship was, but the construction project prior to was not.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk about that. You ripped up the whole front nine. I remember that pretty vividly.
Yeah. So we had mini verde was on the grass that was on the greens when I got here, and it was pretty contaminated.
Yeah.
A lot of off type in it. There's a lot of a disease that was deep into the stolen mat. It was really hard to get fungicides to clean it up, and we had struggled with that. There were some nutritional issues that just it didn't make for a good surface, so we decided to renovate the greens. And when we told Mr. Fazio that we were going to close the golf course down for 90 days to redo the greens, he turned to our club president and said, "Hey, Mr. Harris, I think we need to make a few changes. And if you're going to be closed for 90 days, now's the time to do it."
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's how that all came about. And
I never heard that story.
yeah, and Mr. Harris is he's a good guy, and he loves challenges, and he really has a passion for this property.
And Mr. Harris is, for people that don't know.
Yeah, he is our club president.
Okay. And has been since you've been there, right?
He has been since I've been here.
Yeah.
The land that Quail Hollow sits on is his family's land. His father, founding member of the club, donated the land. As the story goes, there's a group of them that played over at Charlotte Country Club, and Charlotte Country Club is getting really busy, and they were having to, jockey for tee times and things of that nature. So a group of them broke off. They built this golf course out here, which was in the middle of farmland at the time.
Yeah, nothing, right?
Nothing around, yeah. And they built this golf course, and over the years, it's changed around, and it's become just this magnificent tournament venue.
Yeah.
So anyway, Mr. Harris loves the challenge, has a passion for the property, and is striving to always make it better. And he jumped in with both feet and said, "Let's do it." So not only were we redoing the greens.
And when is it? When is this? What's the date right now? What are we talking about time wise? 2 years ahead of the PGA?
We're talking about 1 year ahead of the PGA.
1 year ahead. Okay. So the summer
1 year
before.
and 3 months. Yes.
Okay.
Summer before. So this is May of 2016. We with the day after the Wells Fargo Championship, Monday morning. Typically, that's when contractors are moving out. But I had a whole army of construction people moving in. So we redid the first hole, the second hole, the fourth. We built a brand new fourth hole. Redid the fifth hole. Modified the eighth hole. Modified the 11th hole. Redid all the greens, redid all the bunkers, regrassed all the tees.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
How long did that take? All of that?
90 days.
Okay, you got all of that done in 90 days.
Yes.
That's impressive. And you did it right at the back end of the tournament, Wells Fargo.
Yep.
So you spent months getting ready for that. As soon as that shuts down, you go right into the fire pit again.
Yes, and it was quite fun. I remember that Monday morning, I'm parked on the first green. So I'd never driven a cart across a green. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. So,
hey, this could be fun. Let's do some donuts.
Yeah, I did. I whipped up there and slammed on the brakes, skid a little bit.
Wanted to do that for years.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there watching this big logging machine just cut down and carry trees out. Those big machines where they cut and pick them up and then carry them.
Yeah.
And they strip all the sticks off. Yeah, it was.
And you took a lot of trees down during that process, right?
Yes, we did, because over the new fourth hole, we used a part of the old fifth hole corridor, but we really made a new fourth hole. So we had to remove thousands of pine trees to get in there to make that hole.
How much influence did you have on the design work?
Very little.
Oh, really? Okay. So
yeah, very, very little. So this is, I'm still a little bit.
Is this your first experience with Mr. Fazio?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Working with him.
Yeah.
The first time I met Mr. Fazio, it's quite funny. So it's the 2015 Wells Fargo Championship, and he and I are riding in the cart together. It's Wednesday practice round, and we pull up to the 16th tee, and Adam Scott's standing there, and he's getting ready to tee off, and he's sitting there just gripping his driver, and you can just tell he's just getting ready to murder this ball. Fazio says, we just got to see what happens here. And so he takes the club back and smashes it. I'm telling you, he hits this thing like 320.
Yeah.
Which is about the average drive now. But, we're talking a few years back. And Fazio, he just watches the ball go. He looks at me and says, let's ride down there and see where the ball ended up. So we drive down there and see where the ball ended up. He's just looking like, holy cow, I can't believe the guys are hitting the ball this far now. Yeah. He looks at me and says, I just can't do anything about that.
Oh, put a bunker right there. Put a bunker at a 300 and some mark.
Yeah, well, we ended up doing that a few years later. We ended up flipping some bunkers around because the bunkers were kind of misplaced.
Yeah.
They were hitting the ball over. What we found out is that sometimes these bunkers that aren't far enough along, they penalize the shorter players.
Yeah.
The guys who are hitting the ball over the bunker are fine, but you don't want to penalize like Webb and people like that, and
members.
The members. Yeah. Give them a chance for everybody to hit a driver, and if you go in the bunker, you go in the bunker.
Yeah, I can hit 375 if you give me a driver, a 3-wood, and a 6-iron. I mean, I can get there.
You and me both.
But I'd be in the bunker 3 times. So what was the experience like, the whole construction? Had to be really hectic and busy. 90 days, that's intense. And I remember when you were going through all that, how busy you were.
Yeah, it was busy, but it was fun. We had a lot of good help.
Yeah.
We had 3 construction crews in here. We had 2 different site contractors in here. One of our members, who owns a really big construction company, stepped up to be the GM of the whole project.
Oh, wow.
So that really helped me out. It kind of freed me up to be a superintendent, not a construction manager.
Right.
Where I could work with the Fazio design team when we were laying out irrigation or laying out the greens, and not on paper, but saying, can we do this a little different or do that a little different? And so it was really nice. It was good fun. We learned a lot, had a lot of good laughs with the interns that were here.
Yeah.
You got those guys now. It's an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys are out there and doing their own jobs. What was it like? I mean, the Fazio team, were they open to your suggestions when it came to, hey, this is going to be a shit show if I have to maintain this? I mean, was there any back and forth like that?
Absolutely. They want their design to be able to have grass on it first and foremost. So they're always thinking about superintendent needs. About how are you going to maintain this? How are you going to mow it? How are you going to water it? They ask all those questions because, without grass on a golf course, nobody's work looks good.
It's not going to look good. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not going to play good. And so, they're very in tune to superintendent's needs and wants.
Were you ever intimidated by having that conversation with anybody on that team?
No.
And what advice would you give to a guy? I mean, I talked to a lot of guys working with some pretty big names, and you can kind of see they don't want to rock the boat necessarily. And then they look back and say, I don't know if I can maintain that nose. It's a little too long and wide and whatever it might be. But yeah, I mean, any advice to somebody that's in that position?
Well, construction is kind of hard because as a superintendent, for me, I don't visualize the same way these golf architects do. So
yeah.
They're putting on paper and I can see the drawing. And then when they're out there building and shaping, I really don't get it until it's like almost shaped.
Yeah.
Like these guys are so talented, but I guess if I was going to give advice to somebody, I just don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to give answers, but don't be afraid to ask questions.
Sometimes the question is more than enough, to get people thinking.
Exactly.
Was the back nine open while you were doing the front nine?
Thank goodness, no.
Oh, so you closed the whole property?
Yeah, well, we're redoing all the greens. So.
Oh, that's right. You did everything. I'm sorry. I did know that too. Yeah.
Well, it also gave me a little bit of a time to address some of the agronomic things on the golf course on the holes that weren't being affected. So we were able to really aerify and verticut some of these fairways that hadn't been done in a number of years, and really, really attack some areas that we needed to attack.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, you've been I consider you a pretty strong agronomist. Let's talk about your agronomy. Are you still of the belief, keeping it simple? I mean, has that been ingrained in your mind?
Yeah, that's definitely been ingrained.
Yeah.
But it's tough to do.
It is hard to do, especially where you are.
Yeah. Well, it's a moving target here with some of the projects, and so you really just have to make sure that you do all the things that you're supposed to do. Walk greens, walk tees, look for things, be aware. And, that's the thing that I have to do now more than ever is multitask and be aware. So like we just got done building a new tennis center, which is very, very involved in there.
So you're away from the golf course.
Yeah, it's away from the golf course.
Yeah.
Even with some of the new parking lots that we've built that hopefully you'll see soon. The whole front of the house is completely different. So I've learned so much about parking lots and detail and asphalt and things like that.
All the things you need in growing grass.
Well, I've had to become very good at going out and looking at signs on 3 or 4 different holes on my way to different construction projects.
Yeah.
That I could try to look at every day at the same time to pick up clues on what I need to do. Going back to those conversations that Kevin had with me about spoon feeding.
Yeah, exactly.
Having those same conversations with my guys now to try to, because I'm not looking at the grass as much as I really want to.
Yeah. You've been a carbon user for a while now, and I know you and I've been working together for a bunch of years. Has that made a difference in what you're doing? And I don't mean that to sound self-serving, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, well, I don't know the carbon or everything it is, but it works. The grass is very happy.
Yeah.
So we keep doing what it takes to make the grass happy. We've definitely seen improved health throughout the property, durability, wear tolerance.
Right.
So we just keep the sauce going, man.
I didn't look this up, and I should have before we got on camera here, but what's your water like?
I've got, I guess what they say is I've got the stripper with bicarbonate.
Yeah, well, that's that area that you're in. That area is all this whole stripping, really clean water that tends to, and just so we qualify this, stripping water is just a very clean water, and water needs to have an equilibrium. So when a clean water that's devoid of cations goes through your soil, it's going to find an equilibrium and grab cations off the colloid. So you're constantly having to adjust and manage the loss of the cation from the water, and then on top of it you got the sealing effect from the bicarbonate. So it's not an easy water to manage, is it?
No, it's been quite a challenge. And we've definitely had a water issue this summer. Actually, kind of I took my eye off the ball on a few things, and we had a few problems creep up, and it hit me about a month ago, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah,
you big dummy.
Been paying too much attention to asphalt, not enough to green.
Yeah, so we're paying the price. Well, we moved the pump house. The old pump house used to be in a spot that flooded, and with this whole climate change crap we're going through, we get a lot of flooding rains nowadays. And so,
there
are a few different times that the pump house almost went under.
Really?
Yeah. So we moved the pump house up out of the way and put it
raised it up.
Yeah.
Got it out of a floodplain. Yeah.
Yep. In the process, so we had an acid injection where I was injecting urea sulfuric to help with the bicarbonate and bring the pH of the water down. pH of the water was 8.5.
Yep.
We were bringing it down to around 7. So we weren't using a lot of urea sulfuric, but we were using some. And so when we were moving the pump house, we tore up the pump that does the urea sulfuric. And I said, you know what? Hey, let's don't put it back. Let's go a season without it and see what happens and see if we can make it through, see if this thing's really necessary. Because if you talk to 4 people that would look at our water quality tests and they would say, oh man, you don't need that. You don't need it.
Yeah.
And I found out by about August that I needed it.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of
what did you see that told you that?
It's almost like the soil colloid is not stable anymore.
Yeah.
It's very loose.
Structural.
Yeah, it's all structural.
Yeah.
And with ultra dwarf greens, it's very important that you have a stable mat.
Yeah.
Because that grass, if it's unstable and it scalps, it's a booger to manage. If it gets really droughty and it wilts, again, drought, the Bermuda grass, ultra dwarf greens are not really all that drought tolerant. When they wilt, bad things happen because then disease comes in, you lose your roots. So we've been off balance quite a bit this year. So
yeah, we're gonna get back to a monitoring program, my friend.
Yeah, that's it.
I think we got to keep going back to that. Hey, what's the grass now? What did you end up moving into?
We're with Champion G12.
You came, okay. So you went full cycle back there.
Yeah.
Are you liking it?
Yeah. I mean, so Champion is Champion. Then Champion put out this G12.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different grass than the parent Champion. And it's tough to manage. It grows. I mean, it's hard to kill it. That's the one part about it. But it takes a lot of work to get green speeds of tournament green speeds.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're finding that very challenging. And that's kind of what's got me in a little bit of trouble is being that lean machine.
Right.
You know, to get green speed, sometimes you take your eye off of the water quality, you take your eye off of feeding the plant, and then you get into this lean moment where you kind of fall off a cliff and you have to put things back together.
And that's a vogue right now, is to try to be lean, but it's a two-edged sword, man. It's a very thin razor's edge. So, it's tough. I mean, it just shows you that you've got so many balls in the air, especially in your new role here, doing all the other things, but just growing grass. I mean, where you are, I mean, you're in a tough place to grow grass. It's not an easy place with that water and that environment and all the things that you got to think about and all that stuff.
Yeah, we have about 100 days. Really to grow Bermuda grass, to get it good, to get it healthy, to get it ready to go into dormancy. We're very fortunate this year. We're not overseeding this year, which will be
Really?
First year in like 5 or 6 years, we've not covered the place in ryegrass, which is a whole nother issue.
Yeah. Why was that decision made?
Because we're not hosting the Wells Fargo Championship in the spring.
Right.
And we're going to host the President's Cup in the fall of 2022. And I felt if we're not going to have a spring tournament, let's just let the Bermuda grass go dormant. Let it do its thing naturally. It'll wake up early in the spring, and we're able to really create a good surface,
right,
for the fall event.
Right. I'm going to come back to the President's Cup in a second here, but I want to ask you about labor situation at Quail. Are you struggling like everybody else in the country, or how's labor in your part of the world?
Yeah, labor in Charlotte's really tough because Charlotte's booming. It's a lot of people are moving to Charlotte. There's a lot of jobs that are being created, a lot of higher paying jobs that are being created. But yeah, we struggle finding people from time to time. Right now, we're in a good spot. We were not in a good spot mid-August.
Oh, really? Heat of the summer.
Yeah, into the summer. We were very intern college heavy, kid heavy for the summer. Yeah, we had like 16 of them leave, so that hurt.
Yeah, right. When they all pack their bag on the same day and go back to school.
Well, when I was in school, we left in late August and got started in September.
Yeah.
Now the kids are leaving in late July. And
they got to have their couple weeks at the beach, and they got to go buy their blue jeans and stuff. I mean, lots of things have to happen between now and then.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that we have a good core staff here that we really preach the culture of the club, and we let them play golf a couple times a week.
Oh, that's
And
good. How easy
so
is that? And helps
well,
you
we got a
maintain
lot of
that.
guys who love to play golf.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
how easy is that? A lot of clubs don't do that, and it's. I would think it's an easy retention program, for keep getting guys excited about coming and working.
oh, and we have golf tournaments. So
Yeah.
we'll do golf tournaments for them. We'll have employee outings. We'll have
Oh, that's wonderful.
captain's choice. I'll use some of these gift cards you get for buying fertilizers and things of that nature.
There you
And
go.
yeah, I'll go get a big screen TV and say the winner takes the TV home. So,
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great way to use that kind of stuff. Let's
well,
talk.
what
Go ahead.
happens is it gets them talking to their friends. And so
Exactly.
if a friend that comes by that they play golf with is not happy in his job, it's like, man, why don't you come out and work with us at Quail? And then next thing you know, I'm getting another person hooked on the business like I got hooked.
Good. Yeah. Is that happening, do you think, at the extent that it did when you were, working with Kevin and getting hooked?
Absolutely.
Is it good? So we're still seeing
Yeah.
young guys wanting to stay in the business. Young
Yeah,
folks. No, I shouldn't say guys because it's women as well as men.
absolutely. Yeah,
You know?
it's pretty easy to get them hooked.
Yeah. Good.
When you have a good team that works together and good managers who treat the team with respect. And the hardest part about it, Joel, really is the hours.
I know.
As you know, that in the golf course maintenance world, our work is never done. And there's this big shock whenever you say, hey man, you have to work weekends. So we're trying to figure out different ways to create a schedule that provides for every need that the club could have, but also gives our staff a little time to have a life.
Life balance. Yeah. That's certainly the biggest topic right now in our industry is life balance. And, I think those days of, 150-hour weeks is probably gone, and probably rightfully so.
Yeah, they need to be. But me sitting here talking about it's like the pot calling the kettle black,
Yeah,
because
I know.
I'm the worst.
Yeah.
I'm the worst.
Yeah, you've been. Let's talk about so in 2017 you hosted the PGA Championship, which was, I have to tell you, I've been to a lot of tournaments. The Open, the PGAs. Haven't been over to England yet. I've been down to the Masters once, but I have to say that championship was one of the most comfortable experiences and probably one of the best experiences overall in terms of accessibility and how well the club handled everything. We stayed at I brought a bunch of clients in. We stayed at the Hilton downtown Charlotte, which is a great town to hang out and have dinners. Walked right outside the back door of that hotel, got on a light rail train that dropped us right off at where you guys had dozens of buses just sitting there, filling them up. Boom. As soon as they filled up, they drove, a handful of blocks, dropped us right off at the front of the property, and we were right there, and it was wonderful. I mean, it was so easy, so comfortable. You guys, the hospitality from head to toe at that tournament was second to none in any experience. I mean, the Masters is hard to beat, admittedly, but being able to get there, get through the crowds, and just how well that your club just took care of everybody. I mean, I still talk about that today to folks in the business, but it was a great experience, and the place looked fantastic. I mean, it was a great tournament.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That it's one of those tournaments I know I'll never forget. And you talk about the hospitality in Quail Hollow. We worked very, very hard on that.
I bet.
There's a lot of meetings, and where that is at the forefront. It's about your experience. We want people walking away saying exactly what you just said about getting to the course, being there, having fun, because you know what? We're going to host more of these things, and we want you to come back.
Yeah. Oh, we'll be back. There's no question. I mean, I've been down to the Wells Fargo a number of times, and I mean, we were a little smaller crowd, obviously, than the PGA was, but and I was privileged enough to have somebody drive me up to the back shop. But the whole tournament experience of the PGA Championship was it was truly exceptional. And I mean, and we brought clients, and they all said the same thing. So everybody just had such a great time. So it was a great, as a business person, it was great bringing clients to the table, and then just for them to see your property was just great. So you're back on the docket for 2025.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
There you go. So you're staying PGA all the way. I mean, a lot of guys are there seems to be some shifting going on. I know the Olympic Club jumped on the bandwagon, Congressional's on the bandwagon now. So you got some competition working, and two of my favorite courses. But yeah, you've got a lot of new guys coming on, a lot of youngsters, if you will, in the PGA circuit coming on. But you're still pretty much lock solid in there. Are you going on outside of 225? Are you going down the road even further?
No, there's nothing. Nothing has been inked past 25. So
okay. So I don't know how far out does that list even go? 30, 35, 31? I know Congressional's 31.
I don't know. I don't know how, they've got them lined up, and we were fortunate to get 25. And I don't know how far out the Ryder Cups are either. So.
Wow. So when you are you on the Ryder Cup list?
I don't know.
Okay, so you're still up in the thing. So let's talk about this. So you're changing up the Wells Fargo and are giving it up for this year, and you're picking up the President's Cup.
Correct.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it should be a fun event. I've never done a match play event, so
yeah,
look forward to that. I think we're going to send some people to Austin to help out with their match play event that they have. That WGC event they have there in Austin, and
right. That'll be fun.
And learn a little bit from that.
I take it you've been to a match play event, haven't you?
I've been to a match play event. I went to the President's Cup down at Royal Melbourne.
Yeah.
For the last one, and got to see a little bit of that and talk to those guys and see how they managed a match play event. But it's easy to observe.
Yeah. It's a completely different beast. Yeah, I've worked with Glenn Smickley and Scott Furlong up at Rubber Trent Jones on there, and I'll tell this story real quick. I remember one time we were all sitting in the shop, and it looked like everything was over, and the screen was up there, and then they realized because it's match play, they were going back. They thought it was over, and everything had been taken off the course. So Scotty grabs me and goes, "Hey, get in the car, quick! Grab those two flags." There wasn't even a flag on the hole, and they were, I think Phil Nicholson was already teeing off. There wasn't luckily it was a par 5. There wasn't even a flag. I shouldn't be telling a story. I'm sure I'll get in trouble, but there wasn't even a flag on the green. So we went dashing out there, and luckily the thing did end before they got to the green. And but I was a bit of a panic because everybody had kind of started relaxing. I think there might have even been an adult beverage or two shared. The tournament in everybody in our minds was over.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they see guys going up the next hole. I'm like, wait a second, we've taken everything out. So match play is a little bit different. And I think I told you that story. I've never been to a tournament before, and I was sitting there, and I just decided I wanted to sit down. So the only place to sit was on the bleachers at 17, but I didn't know enough about match play. Everything was ending beforehand. And this was, I think, the first President's Cup. And then one group came up, and it was Freddie Couples and VJ Singh. And it was a short par 4, and VJ hit it to, like 10 feet, and Freddie hit it out 30 feet. And Freddie came up and drained the putt, and it won the tournament. And it was right in front of us by sheer stupidity and accident. But it's a wonderful experience. I mean, the President's Cup's a lot of fun, and it will definitely be a challenge for you. You told me the other day that you guys are actually expanding the property by 10% in terms of infrastructure for the President's Cup over the PGA.
Yeah, 10%. I'm not quite sure of that percentage, but it's somewhere up there. So there'll be a larger build, hospitality build. So there'll be more bleachers, fans. I think they're going to shoot for around 40,000 in attendance.
What did you have at the PGA?
It's a little bit less. They had about 50,000 PGA.
Okay.
However, with the match play event, 40,000 people only on a few holes.
Oh, that's right. Of course. Duh.
Yeah, but there's going to be a lot more tents and bleachers and things of that nature.
What do you have to do? What are you going to be doing? You're going to be changing anything? You're going to be ripping up anything? You're doing any infrastructure? So you're set right now.
We're set. We've got some trees to plant on the 12th hole. We had a sewer project come through there this summer, so we need to plant some trees. So I've got some tree planting to do this winter.
That's not something I talk to superintendents about much. Planting trees. Yeah.
That's another thing that I've learned a lot about here that I didn't think I was going to learn much about. It's of really developing arboriculture skills.
There you go.
Trying to work on that. As many trees as we've taken down, Joel, we've planted.
Wow.
And we don't plant small trees. So
I wouldn't think so.
These are all 6 and 8 inch caliper oaks and magnolias and 200-gallon magnolias, and they're just tremendous.
So the big equipment comes in and pops them in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That is very cool. Hey, I hate to say this, but we're pushing up on our hour, but I want to wish you the best of luck with the President's Cup. And so I guess it'll be a little bit easier next spring because you won't have the Wells Fargo. It's moving up to, where's it moving up to? It's
TPC Potomac.
Potomac, right. And then you're going to have pretty much that stretch until the President's Cup. I'm looking forward to that. I will plan on being down there. I would love to see that again. Like I said, I love that experience. I think we have, as a matter of fact, there's one sitting right here, a picture of the President's Cup at RTJ on my wall. So I have a real soft spot for the President's Cup in general, but I'm looking forward to seeing, especially with a place like yours where the hospitality is so good. But it'll be a great experience for you guys, I'm sure. It'll be.
We're gonna have so much fun with it, Joel.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Staff is jacked up. The President's Cup team actually came in and fed us breakfast the other morning and did a big presentation on the hospitality build and
nice.
how everything will look. Yeah, and so my whole team's jacked up, man. They're ready to go.
I bet that's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to have a blast. Keith, I can't thank you enough for everything, for all your support over the years, your friendship, and for spending a little bit of time with me on our podcast. But I wish you the best of luck with all of that. And hopefully now that COVID is starting to relax a little bit, we can get together. You going out to San Diego for the National?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence there. We'll see how the winter's.
It's a nice town. It's a good place to be if you have to be somewhere.
Yes, it is. I love San Diego. That's one of the best.
Yeah.
Best shows. You stay at the Gas Lamp and.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there and with bells on, and we're looking forward to just seeing guys in the business again. I mean, literally, I've been stuck in a box for 2 years now, and it feels completely, disoriented and disconnected. And so hopefully we can get back. But thank you so much for all your time. I want to thank everybody for watching the EarthWorks podcast, and please subscribe to the podcast because you get to hear pretty cool conversations with really good superintendents like Mr. Keith Wood from Quail Hollow Club. So Keith, wish you the best of luck. I'll talk to you very soon, I hope.
Thank you, Joel. Take care.